How shall we start this?
Do we not start every podcast with like, hi, I'm Helen Tudor and this is the Ideal Client Attraction Podcast, or not? You can have that. Done. We're rocking and rolling. Let's go.
So, episode 1, titled Me versus the Machine.
Yeah.
We're just talking about that and, you know, what you're going to do with this episode. Mm-hmm. Tell the audience what you mean by me versus the machine. Sounds quite scary.
I know, doesn't it? Sounds a bit like dystopian future.
Is Arnie going to burst through
Yeah,
at any
this
moment?
This isn't an episode about AI, although I'm sure we'll cover it in other ones. The machine in my world means the building of the business that works without you. So there's two distinct elements in growth. One is where you're doing everything yourself, the solopreneur, if you like. You maybe have like 1 or 2 people helping you, but really everything's on you. You know, people talk about this, you know, you're the finance director, you're the sales director, you're the marketing director, you know, the operations, and you are doing everything. And you get to a point where you've got the selling the thing, you've got delivering the thing, and you've got running the business. They're kind of 3 very distinct sort of elements that you've got to be making sure you've got balanced, I would say. And I think a lot of people, the building of the machine is where we start to have things that happen without us. So it can be things like team, but it can also be things like tech, can be systems. I mean, these are words that I just can't even imagine coming out of my mouth nowadays, you know, but these are things that, in my opinion, we need to really scale. Because to scale, i.e. financially scale, we're going to need operations happening that we're not in control of, or we haven't got our fingers on. So I think for me, the machine is building something that works, that you are a part of, and you are an important, integral part of that machine, but you work for the machine. Does that make sense? The business is an entity that exists, and the people work for the business, including me, including you. You know, you are, you know, for me, I'm the Beyonce of the business. I'm the star of the show. You know, without me, the business doesn't particularly work very well. But there's, you know, in terms of like, I'm the face of the business. It's still a personal brand-led business. This isn't really about building a completely hands-off personal brand business. This is about, I am the brand, but there has to be a machine of a business behind me to allow me really to do the bits that I like to do. And then all the bits I don't like to do, or I don't understand, or I don't want to do, other people can do, or other systems or technology can do for me.
So before we go into the machine, let's talk about the mindset challenges and the very real challenges of accepting that you need to build that machine, losing a little bit of control, it might feel like to some people. A lot of entrepreneurs are very type A people, aren't they? They're very kind of like, you know, they're very good at doing everything. They thrive, and there's almost like a medal of honor for being busy. Yeah. So let's talk about the mindset side of it, and also the knowing when.
Yes.
And then within that, it'll probably come out anyway, the knowing which roles and which jobs you should do, because there's fractional CFOs, there's marketing agencies that can take over all the marketing. There's, you know, there's OBMs, there's all these things. And, you know, your audience will probably be inundated with ads and saying, this is the first hire you should make. So they're the 3 things that I'd really be interested to know. Like 1, how do you get your head around it to start with? 2, how do you pick like what to do? And, you know, 3, where do you decide to position yourself in that?
I think there's a couple of like small but important things that somebody listening to this might maybe not even have done yet. And the first thing for me that really changed my mindset was setting up a limited company. And we're in the UK, so it might be different in other countries, but in the UK, you can set up a limited company and it becomes a legal entity without you. And that felt like a big step for me, because it stopped being me as a self-employed person, and I created this, and I did it very early on. And then the second thing was registering for VAT. Again, this is UK centric, but registering for VAT, again, it sets that intention that I'm going to scale past this figure. Yeah. And I see so many entrepreneurs stuck underneath the VAT threshold because it seems a scary place to get to and through. And it really limits, you know, if I was in charge of the country, this is one of the things I'd look at, because I think it really limits people's mindset. At the moment, I think it's about 90 grand, and obviously it changes every year, but it almost keeps people in almost like an employee mindset of, I just want to earn enough to pay my bills, you know?
It's fascinating. I was listening to Radio 4 because I am that exciting people. And there's a guy on from the Treasury and he said, what's fascinating is the amount of self-employed people that do these jobs, you know, like a variety of jobs, and they all manage to earn £250 less exactly than the VAT threshold every year.
Yeah.
He said, I'd hasten to add that if we went and looked at their mortgage applications, the amount was very different.
Yeah.
But it's like a scary thing, but it does. It's almost
it's a
like
ceiling that's keeping people below.
And one of the successful people I knew was just sort of like, he uses his tax bill as a scorecard.
Yeah.
You know, like almost like the bigger that is,
the better I'm doing.
The better he's doing it. It's like he almost changed it from thriving to like that to be a big problem and thriving to be there. Because as you say, as soon as you're VAT registered as well, I've noticed it with the little agency that I run, companies just assume size.
Yes.
They assume quality when you're limited and VAT. And I would agree with you on once you're a limited company, it becomes slightly different because now it feels like I'm going to work. Because there's a company and it's not me. Yeah. And also I find rejection easier because they're rejecting the company. They're not rejecting me.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is like a weird thing. It's like, it's a business and I feel more business to business transaction rather than me and the client as people. I kind of feel it's their business hiring my business.
Emotionally disconnect from it a little bit.
Yeah, which makes certain things easier.
Yeah, like I think in the online world particularly, there's a lot of talk about scaling and all the rest of it. But I think the mindset around so obviously I look at the spirituality and the energetics of it as well. And I think getting into a space where you are setting an intention to scale way past 90 grand and whatever the VAT threshold is, and setting an intention to operate a limited company because that's a business of a certain size, should be limited. Doesn't have to be, but should be from a legal standpoint and from a protection standpoint and all that kind of stuff. So it's like, it's manifesting in action. It's setting that up, and it's quite easy to do. And it's just, you know, you get your letter from Companies House, and it's got the thing, you know, and it seems silly, but I think it's a really important mindset shift. I know a lot of people have already done it, but I do quite often come across entrepreneurs who haven't done it and are still doing things like running the business money through a personal account and things like that. And it's almost just putting that out to the universe that this is not a serious business. You know, this is a nice to have hobby business, lifestyle business, whatever you want to call it. But, you know, having separate finances, separate business finances, you know, separate legal entity, getting VAT registered as soon as you get close to it, and just understanding it's just part of doing a business. It doesn't mean anything. It's just, that's how, you know, that's what the business needs to grow. And somebody said this to me really early on. I can't remember who it was now, and I always feel a bit bad because I can't credit her. It was a woman. She said, Helen, if you want a 7-figure business, you got to act like a 7-figure business owner. And that covers everything.
Powerful.
From a legal point of view, from a boundaries point of view, from a mindset point of view. And if you want a 7-figure business or a multi-6 or whatever you're aiming for next, it's like, if I was earning that amount, so if I was doing $250,000 a year, would I be doing these things in my business? Would I be acting this way in my business? Would I be having these conversations? Would I be going to these people? Would I be saying yes to this? Or would I be saying no to that? And I think it's a really interesting filter to run everything through. You know, if I was, or when I'm at, obviously it's a mindset thing, but when I'm at £1 million a year turnover, or when I'm at £1 million a month, I don't mind whatever the number is, but just having that in your head when you're making decisions before you know, think, do, say anything really helps, I think, filter back to, I've set an intention that I'm going to scale this business, and stepping into what that's going to be like every day is a really fast way to make things happen.
I think that's very true. And it'd be interesting. One of my next questions will be like spiritually, you know, with the spirituality side of it, because I know wealth, growth, and having those visions of earning big money can be like, there's money blocks. There's also, do I deserve that? There's the other things, and there are negative connotations around money and success. You know,
everywhere you look, basically,
from So that might be something that people to get to that stage to accept it. But just on what you were saying about the acting in those little steps, being self-employed, I was can you be in for an Amazon parcel?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, can you be in for that? Can you do that? And it was just the mindset shift of the people around me. When I've got a really small office.
Mm-hmm.
it's smaller than the room I was using at my house for my office. But now I leave.
Yeah.
And I'm at work at a certain time and I stay there to a certain time and I'm at work. But everybody's perception since I got the office is that I'm doing so much better than I was before. Do you know what I mean? But also mentally for me, it's great because I have somewhere to go to do work.
Yeah.
Like the company become limited, all those things. I do now feel like there is company, there is me, there is what I need to do within the company. So I would totally agree with those things. Like they seem really little, they seem really like minor. But it does really shift, probably more than you know. And I work harder because I want to get done by a certain time to go home, and also my mental clarity.
Yeah,
because it's kind of like I'm done with work for today now. I'm now going to relax and enjoy
the
family
evening,
and friends and the evening. So on the spirituality side of it, what is when people are thinking about plugging themselves into the machine, becoming a machine, creating a machine? And I imagine even the term machine for spiritual people is a challenge. What are the tips and tricks and tools, and where do they need to look to accept this growth?
This growth. I think what you said there about money mindset is really powerful, and we could talk about it all day. But I mean, it's understanding that this future vision of you, where you earn the money you desire, is the same you. You've just got more money. Like you change, your mindset has to shift and expand, but only to your ability to receive it, and the money you earn is so in your control that it should be the most fun game you've ever played. I think we take it all far too seriously. I've seen myself, full disclosure, I've made 100 grand in a month, I've made £1 million in a year, but I've also had bad years in business as well. I've reduced my revenue right down to allow me to focus on other things at home when things have been going on behind the scenes. So it's almost like it's in your control. So why not scale it to wherever you want it to go, And the machine bit is to allow you to do all the spiritually fun things you want to do. Yeah. It's the machine is about building a life by design. So you only have to do the things you want to do. I'm not saying this is why this is important for season 2, because I think season 1 of your business, if you like, you are going to have, well, for me anyway, you are going to be working all hours. You are going to be doing a lot of things that feel like aren't moving the needle, but they are, but you can't see it yet. You are going to be working, your boundaries aren't going to be great. You are going to be saying yes to everything because you don't even know what you want, yet. And you don't know what's a good opportunity and what's not. I think season 2 is about being a little bit more sophisticated, but you have to go through all of that. I think that's the first 2 years, I'd say. You have to go through all of that to get the one thing that you can't buy, which is experience. Yeah. And you can't buy that. You can't cheat your way to it. You can't pay somebody to get you there quicker. There's no way of getting more experience without getting more experience. So it's almost like, how can you use this experience that you've learned to get really clear of like, this is what I will do, this is what I won't do, this is what I don't want to do, but I have to do. There's still elements of that, of course. And you asked about what sort of steps or what order to do things in. So the first thing to do is get help at home. Doesn't matter whether you're a mum, whether you've got your kids or not, whether you're a single man, just get somebody in to look after the house so you don't have to, so you can focus on the business. It's so important. The first hire I ever did was a cleaner. Before I hired a VA, before I hired anyone else. Now I have somebody help me with the house and things like that, because mindset-wise, I need to be focused on the business or relaxing and enjoying myself or spending time with my children. They're my, that's it. So for me, the more help you've got at home, the faster you can build a machine because you can focus on it. So that's step 1, always. Hire the cleaner.
I would also say that requires no skill as a hirer.
No.
Right. It requires, you're not having to train a VA to do something. You're not having to teach someone else part of your system. You're literally saying, my house is dirty.
Yeah.
Please come and run the vacuum round and do this. Like, I'm going to put the washing machine on. Can you stick the clothes away when you're done? Yeah. It's a skill that doesn't need much explanation. So it's an easy transfer. It's an easy win back of 2-3 hours of time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is. It's an easy, and use that time for whatever you want. It could be building the machine or it could be lying flat on the sofa. Like, I don't mind. But what I don't want is people working so hard. If you think about the first 100 grand, if someone paid you 100 grand, you'd work pretty hard for it, right? If you were guaranteed to get 100 grand, you'd work pretty hard, you'd show up, you'd do your job, and that's what you should be doing for your business, right?
Yeah.
But then you don't want to also, if you're getting paid 100 grand, you won't then want to go home and start doing the dishwasher and cleaning around the back of the toilet and all that kind of stuff. Unless you love cleaning and it's meditative. I can't relate, but some people love it and they don't like people in the house. So this isn't for you. But like, you know, get a cleaner, get somebody to walk the dog so that when you walk the dog for fun, not because you've got, you know. And the other thing is, if you've got somebody helping you at home, whether it's dog walking, cleaning, gardening, organising, decluttering, whatever, is you can't then procrastinate and do those things. So instead of like doing the thing you're trying to put off in your business, you think, well, I'll just take the dog for a walk first and then I'll just do the dishwasher first. And then you end up, I've spent all day doing domestic duties and I've not done any of the things I'm supposed to do in my business because I don't want to do them. So that's another reason for outsourcing that first. Then I think admin support is a really strong one because a really good VA is, you know, priceless. And, you know, what a VA can do is do stuff for your business and for your personal stuff. I don't know if a lot of people know this, but, you know, a good VA will do pretty much anything to help make your life easier. So, for example, you know, things like reminding me to order my contact lenses or my foundation or, you know, book my, you know, the emails comes in from the dentist, make sure you book your hygienist. So there's some life admin they can help with, which again is going to help you focus on the business. And then from a business point of view, the less available you are, the better. Because the less available you are from a positioning point of view, the better. So people can't ring me up and start asking me business related questions, you know?
Powerful.
And they can't just get an appointment with me if they want. They can't book into my diary. The first thing I want everyone to do who wants to build a machine is get rid of a Calendly link immediately. You know, an open Calendly link on your website is like saying anybody, anywhere can just take up my time and energy and attention. And that is not a great positioning tool. That is not, you can't book in with Oprah. You can't book in with like, you know, it just doesn't work like that. So having a barrier between you and people who want to speak to you is really, really powerful.
So would that be another layer for the machine? Because if you wanted people to be able to inquire and book those calls, and as you say, it makes a lot of sense to have that separation. So you'd be like, right, okay, I want to remove the Calendly links. I want to be less available. Who do I need to schedule a 15-minute call with someone that could be a prospective new client that can screen them?
Exactly.
And then decide whether they're worthy of
people have to
time.
like basically jump through some hoops to get in front of you. And so they should, you know, because when you're doing £1 million a year, that will be that you won't be able to just get on a call with anyone. So straight away, the first step into building a machine is to really put some value on your time. So people can't speak to you to just ask you questions, quick questions, pick your brains, kind of just have 5 minutes, networking, coffee, all that kind of stuff stops immediately. Get rid of it. Get rid of it. And I know people are like, oh no, but I like that. No, that's just it's just wasting your time, their time, everyone's time. Yeah. Free calls to see if you want to work with me. Get rid of all of that. Yeah. But you've got to put something in between you and the client, even if you work one-to-one. So whether that is a technical thing, so there's questions to answer and there are some, you know, some qualifiers for people to go through. Whether it's like something like a scorecard, which I'm a big fan of, so you know maybe people have to fill in a scorecard and then you know they get assessed, and if they're assessed, then they can get a call, whatever it might be. Or I prefer a human, so I prefer to have a human, like the old days. You know, this is my PA basically. You got to get through her to get to me, and she'll decide whether it's the right thing for me to do. Yeah, and then they can also do so much admin that again I'm admin phobic, so this is really powerful for me. You know. I'm going on a podcast, they've got to fill the form in, they've got to upload a picture, they've got all that kind of stuff is just handled. And then diary management. I think people think, oh, I can just pop a link in my own diary, it's not a problem. But every time you go, set a link up, put it in, you know, send the email, it's just 30 seconds, a minute of your time. But if you're doing that over and over again, it's distracting you from the really, really important stuff. Basically, if anyone else can do it for you, like you said, without major training, they're the first things to go, because those little micro time, you know, stealers and distraction stations are the things that are going to really stop you get focused on the things. The only things you should be doing are things that you absolutely love and therefore would want to do them anyway, and things that nobody else can do. So it has to be you. So in my business, that means live video, live appearances at events and things like that. And that's about it. If it has to be me talking and AI's coming, so it won't need to be me soon. But because that's where the value is. I believe, is me doing things like this, or me, being a guest expert or speaking on a stage or whatever it might be. I don't do much of that anymore. But, if it has to be me, that's why video is so valuable. Then only I can do it. Then they're the things that I'm focused on. And also it has to be leveraged. If it's either a client or something that it has to be you to speak to them and it's going to earn you so much money that, you would drop everything and go and do it. Or it has to be something that's maybe not going to make you money in the moment, like something like this, but it's so leveraged that, hopefully millions of people will see, over the years. So it's kind of like create something once and then do it over and over again. So I think they're the two things really. If you don't love it and you don't have to do it, don't do it. And make a big list of all the things that you do and start getting rid of them one by one.
And I would say, like, my organisational skill is a -1 out of 10. So, but here's a case of, and we were talking off air, how my ability to be aware of a date of something that's coming up in, say, like, that's coming up next month, and know that it's someone's birthday, and I'm like, oh yeah, but that's the first week in July, or that's the first week in like April, and I'll be like, yeah, that's next week, John. April is next week, and be like, is it really? Yeah. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, so I have that recognition that it's in there, but it's like, again, like stacking too many bookings into a week and go, well, hang on, you've agreed, you're doing this podcast for 2 days then you're doing this. When are you actually going to do that?
All of those things,
Yeah, because it's kind of like, it's very easy to spend time twice, isn't it? Like, and I think from a spirituality point of view, with this machine that we're asking people to kind of become part of and to grow, it is a very organic thing, isn't it? That kind of, you don't build it all at once. It's very much built in layers. And I think one of the things I would like people to remember, what you ask them to do is they are designing and building the machine with people that have gone before and built machines before as guidance. But it's very much, you build the machine that suits you. To suit you. No one's asking you to build a machine that's not. No.
And there's not, and if you were going to like visualize all of these machines, they're all different, aren't they? They're usually like bits from here, they're bolted on, this is up here, this is, and then bits will fall off and not work, or bits that, one of the things that I see a lot of people want to build a marketing machine for the business. Yeah. I see it all the time in groups. Excuse me. I see people saying, I want someone to just do all the sales and marketing for my business. Well, I don't believe it works like that. I know you've run a marketing agency, but like I used to run a marketing agency as well. And I think you've got to get a real handle on, obviously for me, who your ideal client is and have that real connection with them before you can even think about outsourcing or someone else doing it for you. And I also believe you should be writing your own socials to a point. Yeah. Like the stuff I do believe that people, when you follow someone on social media, you deserve to get them.
Yes.
And I think you owe your audience that as a minimum. If you follow me on Facebook, it's me. Now, obviously, I caveat that with, if it's me, if you follow me on Facebook and it says there's a 5-day challenge coming up next week, that's not me. Yeah, that is my marketing machine. Stuff that doesn't need my energy in it, doesn't need my, it's just basically the news. This is happening.
Broadcasts.
It's a broadcast. But if I'm writing something from me to you, it has to be me. And AI, I know, will be coming down the track. Is here now. But even if I'm using AI, it's got to be trained by me. And you know what I mean? It's got to be, it's never going to be me. So I think in AI land, as we're heading into, it has to be you. And that it should be you, and it deserves to be you. Now, I know a lot of people won't agree with that, but I think there's some things that shouldn't be outsourced and everything else should be. But then maybe that's coming from my angle of loving my ideal clients so much that I want to talk to them all day,
So I would agree with you. I think the cost of growing a personal brand business is you need to accept that you are going to be the star of that business. If you don't want that, don't start a personal brand business. Be Helen at marketing agency and grow the marketing agency name. Grow the mindset company name. If you don't want to always have to be there front and center, Don't sell the personal brand business. Don't do that for you. And that might be what you decide to change. And you can change that over time. That might be part of the machine you decide to change. Like, hey, I don't want it to be me the whole time. I want it to become more of a company, more of a team. And that's a choice. But you are absolutely right. Everybody has the right when they are dealing with a person and they're buying from a personal brand or it's something like that, to feel that they are generally connecting with that person. Otherwise, like, what is the point? And I think with AI and with all these other things, there are hundreds of thousands of businesses where that doesn't matter, because you're selling a product or a service, you're selling trainers, you're selling spanners, you're selling anything. And when people are getting marketing advice, what they've got to remember is marketing advice is very broad. And the marketing advice you can read to what works really well is often because they've analysed e-com stores, they've analysed loads of other stuff. So you need to make sure the marketing advice you are listening to fits with what you think into your machine and is there. And I think that's why if you built a machine to do everything else, so all you have to do is turn up and be authentic.
That's it. That's what I've done.
And if you look at dressmakers and tailors is an analogy I like to use for it, they've become more valuable. That's what everybody had to use before now. But now, because you can go and buy a machine suit, the experience of going to a tailor is the experience in itself. And that person's skill becomes more thing because you're buying their time, you're buying their talent. And I think with personal brands, that's the thing. You are the tailor, you are the custom dressmaker. You know, you might have a line of clothes that people can go and buy off the rack and then just adjust for them. Or you can just go and buy, you know, like your lower end products you might create that don't need your involvement. Someone just goes in and buys it. But at the top level, someone's walking in, they're saying, design the perfect dress for me, Helen. They're saying, help me do my perfect client avatar with me. That involves getting the whole of you.
Yeah,
that's what
I say. Yeah. The one-to-one session is a completely immersive experience where you have my full time and attention and everything that goes before it. So it should be valuable. It's like, you know, I believe it's priceless. You know, I've got to put a price on it because that's the world that we live in. But it's like, I wouldn't be able to do that deep work that brings me such joy if I didn't have the machine. You know, that allowed me to do that, have that time. So when I do ideal client work, I only ever do 3 of those a week. Yeah, because I think that somebody's investing in that time and energy with me. I've got to bring it. You know, I couldn't do 3 in a day. I'd just be doing a disservice to it, you know. So it's a really precious, you know, sacred space that we're in. But I have to have a machine around me. Otherwise, I wouldn't have the time and energy to even do that work at that deep level. So the point of building the machine is to bring you joy as an entrepreneur. It's to give you this time and space and grace. And it's built by design. You know, now, you know, my business isn't turning over $1 million right now, you know, full disclosure, because it's the way that I've structured it is it's been reduced right down. It's quite interesting. We'll talk about that in another episode. But it gives me a great lifestyle, as in, I don't actually do that much work anymore. People say, but someone said something quite interesting. They said, but your brain never stops working. And that's true. Because now I need to be able to think strategically, not operationally. So I have people to run the business, the operations of the business. And I've got, like you say, the off the shelf stuff, got the group program. I've got the, you know, the stuff you can just buy and download and get on with straight away. And all of this content I'm creating that people can consume over and over again without me having to be there, which means that actually I only do the deep work or the important promotional work. The rest of the time, I'm just enjoying myself, you know, but I'm 10 years in, I should be, you know, if I was still grafting all day, every day and doing all my own comments on, you know, like I remember when I used to do 5-day challenges and I'd run them myself. So I'd be writing every post, I'd be replying to every comment, I'd be doing every sales call. You know, I remember being in Brighton and I did 100 sales calls in like 3 days. Just constantly, you know, just like I rented this apartment. I just remember I was like doing them lying on the sofa. I was doing them like sat on the balcony. I just remember that whole episode of just doing these sales calls after sales calls. I had to do everything myself and I was absolutely knackered, you know, and I did sacrifice time with my kids and time with my family and time for myself and all of that. But it's not sustainable. You know, I did that so I could create enough revenue so I could build a machine. And every step of my way in my business, and you see this if you know, looked at my P&Ls, is I spend all the money on people and systems and tech because that's how I've scaled. I've never thought, right, I'm just going to keep doing everything so I can just take more money. It's always been like, right, we've got more money. How are we going to invest that into the business so we can create it to give me the lifestyle I've got now, which is, work of, a few hours a week, So which is great, right? And that's what people look at me now. But you've got to build a machine to enable you to do that.
So in sort of like a brief summary of that, you've built a machine to get you off the treadmill.
Yeah. I built a machine to give me a life where, it's just great. I cannot.
Lovely thing to say.
I just can't
as a goal
complain.
in business, you've built a life that's lovely.
It's just great. I love it. I love every bit of it. It's sometimes tough, and and this is one of the things we will talk about. Cash flow is always a problem, So I'm not sat here as like, oh my God, our business is so cash rich, we're just like rolling in it and all this stuff. But cash flow is always a problem because I'm always spending the money on improving things and changing things and scaling things. But my actual life, if I look at my life, is my dream life, and I've created, and it's all been by design. That's what I keep thinking. And people say, oh, you're so lucky. And I'm like, yeah, but it's always been always was the plan. I started this business at 30. I'm now 45. Like, I deserve to have a nice life. I have put everything into this business, everything I've got, and taken massive risks and been through some really tough trading years, like really tough, through COVID and everything else. And I just think, well, I get up every day. I only do the things that I enjoy. I love the work that I do. I love the clients that I have. I've got a wonderful husband, amazing children. Like, it's all of that's just all good, but it was all decisions that I've made, even when things were tough, even when I felt like giving up, or I felt like I was never going to meet anyone, or I felt like, I didn't want to do 300 hours of £99 sessions or whatever I was doing, back in the day, because there's always going to be a payoff down the line. And I think looking at it, big picture stuff, I think that's what I really want this season to be about, is like looking at the big picture, what we're aiming for here, and I'm going into the next decade, 45 to 55, is all now about legacy wealth. It's all about how can I create a retirement for myself that starts at 55 and goes till I'm 115, which is how long I'm planning to live.
Do you honestly think you're actually going to retire?
Maybe one for another session, but that's my thought process. Is very much, how do I get to a point where
you could choose to?
I could choose to retire and I don't need to work at all.
Yeah, I think that's great. I don't think build the machine, your machine, for you, for what you want.
Yeah, that's a really good point. You build a machine for you, not for me. Not how I say you've got to build a machine, or someone down there says build a machine. You build a machine, you decide what you want, and you build a machine to give you what you want intentionally and strategically and step by step. So even when it feels hard, as long as you've got that big vision, that big picture, that's where I'm going to, then everything is building towards that. And I think that's what the machine is. The machine is to give you the outcome you desire at the end, and taking it step by step and making it feel good. It's all got to feel good, If there's one thing I've really learned over the last 15 years, is we've got to make it so it feels good. Otherwise, what's the point?
Absolutely. I think you've made machines a lot less scary for a lot of people. Then I don't think like these terrifying Terminators coming to take their business, and they realise that it's something that they can do. It works for you.
You build a machine to work for you.
And it's not going to pull away from your spirituality. It's not going to lose the soul of the business.
Give you more time to do that. More time to practice, more time to be with yourself, more time to give yourself space and grace. Honestly, it's what it's all about. To give you that feeling of comfort and contentment and peace. That's what we're all looking for, right? We're looking for peace. And it comes from, having a business that allows you to create pockets of peace every day.
Brilliant.
Love it.
'Cause these are the best